There's a hidden corner of the gaming world, a place where fun takes a dark turn. I'm talking about games overflowing with homophobia, misogyny, and racism. Content so vile, it's been outlawed entirely. Don't believe me? Guys, some of these games are so controversial, I can't even say their names without risking YouTube's wrath. However, before I get going, I need to add a little bit of a disclaimer because I know we're going to discuss this list in length in the comments. Please note that while the legality and availability of these games will vary depending on your location, they're definitely not for the faint of heart. And it's important to know that some of the games discussed involve disturbing themes that could be deeply upsetting to some. So, viewer discretion advised. I'm Mike with List 25, and here are 25 games that are illegal to play. 25. PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, PUBG. Let's start off today's list with one of the tamer items. You know PUBG, right? The battle royale where it's you against everyone else. I mean, everyone probably knows it. Well, its realistic violence and the whole winner-takes-all mentality didn't sit well with the Taliban government in Afghanistan. They felt it would negatively influence younger players, so in April 2022, they banned it completely. 24. Thrill Kill. Okay, let's face it. Not everyone here was knee-deep in morally questionable games back in the 90s, but I won't judge. Thrill Kill, a fighting game released in 1998, was definitely pushing some serious boundaries. It was a game where fighters battled for reincarnation after death using ultra-violent finishing moves called Thrill Kills. Its violence and sexually suggestive content got pretty intense, so much so that it earned it the first ever adults-only rating. However, ultimately the game publishers weren't having it, so despite being rated, Thrill Kill never saw an official release. 23. Carmageddon. Do you remember the good old days of racing games? You know, the ones where you just sped towards the finish line that wasn't exactly, well, spectacular? Yeah, in the late 90s, Carmageddon was the grinning gremlin who threw a flaming wrench into the whole genre. The game wasn't about clean racing lines or beating lap times. Here, you scored points by turning your car into a deadly weapon, mowing down pedestrians and causing maximum mayhem. Not surprisingly, this love of vehicular carnage got Carmageddon banned in Buenos Aires, Argentina for its glorification of violence. 22. Paranautical Activity. Not every banned game is condemned for its violence. Sometimes games disappear from the shelves because of a whole different kind of chaos. Case in point, 2014's Paranautical Activity. Look, the game itself wasn't super violent or anything, although the graphics might be a different story, but the developer went completely off the rails. Apparently, he threatened Gabe Newell, the founder of Steam, because his game wasn't graduating from early access fast enough. The meltdown eventually resulted in Paranautical Activity getting the boot from Steam. 21. Active Shooter. Let's talk about a game that crossed way too many lines. How would you feel about a game where you get to play as either a school shooter or the SWAT team tasked with stopping him? Yeah, you can see why Active Shooter never even had a chance to hit the stores. The public outcry was massive, with people understandably horrified by the idea of simulating such a traumatic and painful real-world event. 20. Condemned: Criminal Origins. Condemned puts you in the shoes of a detective hunting down a serial killer. Well, sounds like fun, right? Well, just know that this psychological game forces you to fight your way through crime scenes with stuff like pipes and shovels. Its graphic violence finally caught the eye of German officials. They felt the game glorified and trivialized brutal acts, resulting in a ban within the country. Don't worry though, if realistic pipe-swinging combat is your thing, you might still find Condemned: Criminal Origins lurking in the darker corners of the internet. Why am I telling you that? 19. Kill the This title speaks for itself. The unfinished game revolved around attacking LGBTQ+ characters, promoting violence and hatred. Thankfully, this horrific game never saw the light of day. Outrage over the game's very premise led to its universal condemnation. No developer or publisher would take the risk of being associated with such hateful content. 18. Super Seducer 3. Have you ever felt the need to play a game that calls itself a seduction simulator? Well, Super Seducer 3, The Final Seduction, tried to be just that, promising to teach players how to pick up women with questionable techniques. Understandably, many found it sexist, promoting manipulative behavior and shallow views on relationships. The eventual backlash led to Steam banning the game completely due to its sexually explicit content. 7. Devotion. If you love scary games, you might have heard a bit about this one. But it's not just the game's creepy setting or story that prompted a racket. Oh no. Devotion managed to spark an international uproar over a seemingly silly detail. You see, it contained a hidden insult to the Chinese president, comparing him to Winnie the Pooh, and, well, things got messy. The game ended up banned in China and caused a flurry of online debates. 16. Hatred. Released in 2015, Hatred puts you in the mind of a mass murderer who embarks on a killing spree for no other reason than his deep-seated hatred for humanity. The game's focus on senseless violence led to a swift backlash, with the game being temporarily banned from Steam. However, this ban sparked a huge debate about censorship and the limits of gaming content. Hatred was eventually reinstated on Steam, where it remains available today. However, some regions still have restrictions in place due to its graphic content. 15. The Guy Game. This particular trivia game promised a bit of risque fun, with players earning videos of women in revealing outfits as a reward. However, the game got a lot of people hot under the collar for its objectification of women and potentially harmful themes. Even more seriously, it was later discovered that one of the featured women was underage, which led to legal action and the game being pulled from stores in 2004. 14. Custer's Revenge. Okay, let's be real for a few seconds. Some video game ideas from the past were just downright terrible. Custer's Revenge is a prime example, putting players in control of General Custer with a truly twisted objective: sexually assaulting a tied-up Native American woman. The awful game, filled with racism and misogyny, rightfully sparked widespread anger and protests. It even managed the rare feat of getting itself banned in Oklahoma City. 13. Bully. In the US alone, 20% of students between the ages of 12 and 18 are being bullied at school, and the consequences can be severe. Research suggests victims can experience lasting emotional and psychological problems, including depression, anxiety, and even suicidal thoughts. That's why you would think more countries would have taken a stance with Rockstar's 2006 Bully. The game, which lets you play as a bullying and bullied student, created pandemonium and controversy in Brazil. By 2008, it was banned nationwide. Those found playing the game could even be fined $1,000 per day. Brazilian authorities felt that the game's aggressive gameplay, centered around pranks and violence, could trivialize or even encourage real-world bullying. 12. Baby Shaker. The early iPhone App Store was a bit of a wild west for developers, with questionable content sometimes slipping through the cracks. Case in point, a 2009 game called Baby Shaker. I mean, really? The app simulated a crying baby on your screen, and players were instructed to virtually shake their phones to silence the cries. Unsurprisingly, it was seen as an app that promoted child abuse, and it was met with immediate backlash, quickly leading to Apple removing the app. 11. Mercenaries, Playground of Destruction. With Mercenaries, you choose from a cast of, mercenaries, and cause havoc on explosive missions. Unfortunately, its depiction of a fictional conflict on the Korean peninsula struck a sensitive nerve. North and South Korea share a tense border, so the South Koreans weren't exactly thrilled with Mercenaries' portrayal of their region's conflict. Memories of the Korean War are still fresh for many Koreans, and the game's lighthearted take on war in such a sensitive area didn't go over so well. The ban, implemented in 2005, remains in place today. 10. Manhunt 2. Manhunt 2 puts you in the shoes of a dangerous escaped mental patient, focused on gruesome executions. Just picture a murderer waiting for an opportunity to kill people from the shadows in the worst ways imaginable, and you'll have an idea of what goes on in the game. Its extreme content caused a massive uproar in 2007, leading to the British Board of Film Classifications to refuse to even give the game a rating. They slammed it for its unremitting bleakness and casual sadism, making it the first game to be denied classification in the UK since 1997. I wonder if that was Doom. Which one was in 97? 9. Postal 2. Think Grand Theft Auto, but cranked up to a disturbingly bloody 11. The game encourages you to run wild as the Postal dude, causing mayhem in your everyday tasks. Want to mow down civilians with a lawnmower? Check. Incite animal cruelty for giggles? Sadly, also an option. Postal 2's focus on senseless violence and shock value earned it bans in numerous countries, including New Zealand and Australia. 8. Sex Vixens from Space. Are you looking for a classic game? Yeah, this ain't it. This title lives on only in infamy. Promising intergalactic adventures, it delivered, well, let's just call it a bad joke. Critics ridiculed the poor gameplay and highly suggestive content, which was controversial even in the late 80s. UK Customs didn't hesitate, seizing shipments and labeling the content pornographic. Today, Sex Vixens from Space is a bit of a cult classic, so if you're brave, curious, and have access to emulators, you can still experience this infamous failure firsthand. 7. Omega Labyrinth. Omega Labyrinth games have been a source of controversy pretty much ever since their beginning. The anime dungeon crawler series, launched in 2015, not only features sexual activity with what appears to be a minor, but also a bizarre way to power up female characters' breasts for combat. Yeah. The suggestive nature of this led to Omega Labyrinth Z and likely other installments being banned in the UK, Ireland, Australia, New Zealand, and Germany. Yet, despite the bans, the game seems to maintain a niche popularity in Japan. 6. Saints Row the Third. Saints Row the Third is an open-world action game where players take control of the 3rd Street Saints gang as they rise through the ranks of organized crime. Its chaotic humor and over-the-top violence are signature elements of the series, but one particularly unconventional weapon landed it in hot water. In 2011, Germany banned the game specifically because of an optional mission involving a giant purple, adult toy used as a weapon. The game has also been banned in the UAE because of its adult and violent themes. 5. Tropico 5. Have you ever dreamed of running your own tropical island nation? Well, in the strategy game Tropico 5, you get to do just that. As a dictator. Build your own island paradise, balance competing political forces, or just ignore them, and rule with an iron fist. Or a gentle sense of humor. Nothing to it, really. However, Tropico 5 was actually banned in Thailand. Why? Well, the Thai military government wasn't too fond of the whole become a dictator aspect of the game, especially since they had just taken power in a coup. Imagine that. 4. Danganronpa v3 Killing Harmony. Danganronpa v3 Killing Harmony ignited a real-world controversy due to its disturbing themes. Players are thrust into a deadly game where talented high school students must solve brutal murders to survive. The game's graphic content, with gory crime scenes and emotional and psychological manipulation, was met with particular alarm in South Korea, as sadly, just months before the game's planned release, a horrific murder occurred, in which an 8-year-old child was murdered and dismembered by a 17-year-old girl. Fearing the game's violent themes could desensitize players or even inspire copycat crimes, the South Korean Video Game Rating Board refused to classify Danganronpa v3, effectively banning it in the country. 3. Rule of Rose. Rule of Rose puts you in the shoes of Jennifer, a young woman trapped in a crooked world dominated by cruel children. The game's disquieting atmosphere and dark themes, including child abuse and implied violence, drew a lot of criticism. In fact, concerns about the game were so strong that it got banned in the UK before it could even be released. Despite the outrage, Rule of Rose has a cult following in other parts of the world. Fans appreciate its unique atmosphere, unsettling beauty, and its exploration of dark themes. 2. Plague Inc. Plague Inc. Evolved. Have you ever wondered how a pandemic unfolds? Plague Inc. lets you experience it from the other side. In this strategy game, you become a microscopic menace, a virus, bacteria, or fungus. You strategize mutations, evolve your pathogen, and spread it across the globe, aiming for total human eradication. The game's realistic disease mechanics and dark humor earned it a devoted following. However, in 2020, China banned Plague Inc. during the COVID-19 outbreak. The developer denied any connection to the pandemic, but the game's unsettling real-world parallels were clearly too unsettling for some. 1. RapeLay. I actually don't even want to talk about this game, but it's my job, so here it goes. RapeLay centers around sexual assault and puts players in the role of a stalker who assaults a mother and her daughters, to put it mildly. Unsurprisingly, the game has been condemned on a global scale and banned in many countries for its disgusting content. While a detailed description is both unnecessary and harmful, discussing its existence is necessary. Games like these highlight a disturbing reality. Some creators exploit violence solely for shock value, and that raises important questions about free speech in gaming, the potential harm of media glorifying violence, and our responsibility to protect vulnerable groups. So, what's the worst video game you've ever played? Let me know in the comments below. Also, don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and check out our social medias, including my personal ones. Links in that description below. And if you liked this video, you need to check out this one here. 25 video games that got banned for insanely absurd reasons. So, almost the opposite of this. These ones pretty much all deserved it. Oh, this one's old though. I gotta remember what's on here. I'm gonna go watch this one. Let's go. Let's watch it together.